you have what appears to be the worst crime an American president has ever committed, and then you have Merrick Garland completely hiding it.
Like, Merrick Garland should have been impeached a long ass time ago. I feel like this is just deja vu.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic. And we are unapologetically outspoken.
Hey everyone, welcome to Freedom Friday. So as usual, it's been a busy news week, starting with the House Oversight Committee hearing that had the two IRS whistleblowers who were the lead investigators in Hunter Biden's tax fraud case. So we've been hearing rumblings for a while now from Congress about the Biden family business dealings where they were raking in money from foreign businesses without actually having a business or product. And of course, it's assumed that the product or business was political influence over Joe Biden, starting when he was vice president. Now, the House Oversight Committee interviewed two high-ranking career IRS whistleblowers on Wednesday in this hearing, alleging the political misconduct throughout the Hunter Biden investigation. So there was Special Agent Joseph Ziegler, whose identity was revealed during the hearing, and then his IRS supervisor, Gary Shapley, who previously blew the whistle on this whole political influence surrounding the decisions on whether or not they would prosecute Hunter Biden into this federal probe, which has been going on for years. It's quite ridiculous. And Ziegler now corroborated the claims that Hunter Biden, his family members, and business associates received over $17 million due to business dealings in China, Ukraine, and Romania. And this all started when Joe Biden was vice president. Both whistleblowers went into detail about how standard protocol was completely ignored and how they were told not to investigate Hunter Biden or his family about any of this. So I'm going to go ahead and play part of the opening statements from this hearing.
Did not appear to follow the normal investigative process, slow walk the investigation, and put in place unnecessary approvals and roadblocks from effectively and efficiently investigating the case. A number of times we were not able to follow the facts.
Prosecutors instructed investigators not to ask about the big guy or dad when conducting interviews. Investigators were not allowed to follow up on WhatsApp messages from Hunter Biden's Apple iCloud backup, where he suggested he was sitting next to his father.
Okay, so not only were we not allowed to talk about the big guy or the laptop, the IRS investigators weren't allowed to either. And the most shocking and entertaining part of this hearing was when Marjorie Taylor Greene questioned the whistleblowers, including these censored photos that she showed during the hearing of Hunter Biden committing sexual acts with prostitutes. And the whistleblower actually had something interesting to say about this. So let's hear his testimony.
Hunter Biden allegedly falsely claimed business deductions for payments made to the Chateau Marmont, a hotel room for his supposed drug dealer, sex club memberships, falsely referenced on the wire as a golf membership, hotels he was blacklisted from, and a Columbia University tuition payment for his adult daughter. All of these items were used to support the willfulness element for felony tax evasion. These false deductions claimed by Hunter Biden caused a false return to be prepared that underreported his total income by approximately $267,000 and a loss to the U.S. Treasury of $106,000.
So, Tara, what the hell? We can always count on Marjorie Taylor Greene to do something bold, but I was not expecting her to share the photos. And she censored very little. So it was very shocking. And of course, it pissed off the Democrats. But that was all news to me. Had you heard before Wednesday that Hunter Biden was trying to deduct sex clubs and prostitutes from his taxes? Because I had no idea.
Yeah, but Stephanie, are you surprised? I mean, we've seen evidence of him snorting cocaine off a prostitute's ass or a stripper's ass or whatever that was. So is this really shocking? I mean, I honestly bet this kind of thing runs rampant in these political circles. and the kind of shit that these people write off under the pretense of, quote, work. You know, I'm sure he's not the only one deducting prostitutes from his taxes. And this is probably just the tip of the iceberg. And as far as Marjorie Taylor Greene goes, okay, I have to say, like, she fascinates me. Sometimes the shit that comes out of her mouth is so out there. But the more I see her exposing things, the more I've kind of developed respect for her, because she just doesn't care what people think or say about her. And she just continues to like expose all the lies and hypocrisy. And to be honest, Stephanie, I'm glad she shared those photos. And I think it was a genius move on her part. Like these libtard fucks like AOC acting all shocked and disturbed that she showed these photos like it was an affront to their conscience. Like, these hypocrites, like they're all in support of what basically boils down to child porn being taught in schools and sexually mutilating minors with their gender affirming surgery pushing. And so you want to pretend you're offended by pictures of Hunter Biden with prostitutes when I'm sure that a majority of people in Congress are doing shit that's even worse. Like, does anyone buy this shit anymore?
No, I really don't think anyone does. And you know what? I feel the same way about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, I did not like her at first. I was like, this bitch is crazy. But she does, like, she's earned my respect because she's bold and she doesn't play the games. She just puts it all out there and she says what's on everyone's mind. And I think we need a little bit of that like shock, because truly everything that this family did, both Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, has been shocking. So she's just putting it out there. But of course, like the Democrats were trying their hardest to poke holes in this in any way possible. And Representative Summer Lee, who is a Democrat from Pennsylvania, said, quote, "I'd like to address the way my Republican colleagues are attempting to co-opt the phrase two-tier justice system to make it sound like Trump and his cronies are somehow the victims here. The reality is that the two-tiered system of justice is meant to refer to the very real system that exists in the United States and which affects Black and brown folks, not powerful former presidents and their political allies," unquote. Okay, Tara, like, basically, they're crying racism over investigating an old white politician and his son, who I might add is the most racist politician we've had, in my opinion. And I just think this is disgusting because, number one, it's watering down racism. It's like anytime the left-wing extremists don't get their way, they call racism. But I do agree with her that if any normal American citizen tried to hide millions of dollars from the IRS, they'd be thrown in jail, which is exactly why her and everyone else, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, should be upset about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden just getting away with it. But like, how does investigating them have anything to do with racial injustice? Like, I just don't even understand why she threw that in there.
Because it has nothing to do with it. It's the same bullshit play that this administration does over and over and over again. Everything somehow has to do with race and gender identity. Like, I don't know if you heard Democratic Rep Shontel Brown from Ohio and how she tried to make this investigation about race by asking the whistleblowers about the percentage of white people versus Black people who get audited by the IRS.
You gotta be kidding me.
Clip. It's really short. I'm going to play this clip because it's ridiculous.
Zero self-awareness. Check this out.
Do you know the rate at which Black taxpayers are audited as compared to taxpayers who are not Black?
No, I don't know.
Well, the answer is Black taxpayers are audited at 2.9 to 4.7 times the rate of non-Black taxpayers. Another question for you, sir. Yes or no? Will this hearing help alleviate the racial disparity in the rates of the IRS audits? No.
That's not the topic.
Thank you. And with that,
That's not the topic.
I don't like the tone of her voice, Tara.
Like, her question literally had nothing to do with this investigation.
No. Meanwhile, weren't her and her cronies like trying to audit Trump? And he's like, I don't understand. Like, whether it's Biden or Trump, they're both old white politicians. Like, what does this have to do with what she's talking about?
Yeah,
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. And what I also find both amusing and ironic about the situation is one of the whistleblowers, Gary Shapley, however you pronounce it. Not only is he a Democrat, but he's gay and he's married to a man. So how do you play the race and gender card on this issue?
Oh, yeah. And that actually came up in the hearing where he was like, everyone's talking about how I'm gay and married to a man and I'm a Democrat. And he's like, but the reason I'm sitting here is not for any of those reasons. It's because I am good at what I do. Like he is. And that's the thing. These guys are like the best of the best. And they were the ones that were in charge of this investigation. So the fact that none of these Democrats even want to listen to what they have to say is very telling. And, I mean, they're pulling the race card because they have no actual evidence or facts. Like it's pretty crystal clear. Like that's what they're going to try to do to try to deter from the real conversation. But another point that the Democrats keep trying to make were that like no charges were filed because the investigators and the prosecution just didn't agree. And, that's common. That happens. But the whistleblowers called them out on this right away. And they were like, that's not true. The investigators, like the IRS investigators and the prosecutors were actually on the same page and they were ready. They were ready to prosecute with felony charges. But the Department of Justice apparently stepped in and stopped this from happening. And so they did give some testimony on the Department of Justice role within all of this. And so basically you have the Department of Justice, the IRS, and the FBI now, like all three agencies, all commingled, playing a role in covering up for the Bidens and showcasing this two-tier justice system. And I've heard interviews all day today from multiple members of Congress saying how the head of the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, should absolutely be impeached over this. And I agree. Like, I think this is actually worse than Biden because we all know Biden's shady. Like, no one's surprised by that. But that's why we have a Department of Justice, to make sure justice is served and the law is upheld and to stop this kind of thing from happening. So you have what appears to be the worst crime an American president has ever committed. And then you have Merrick Garland completely hiding it. And so I think that that's just showing like how corrupt this justice system has become. So I do think he should be impeached, but my fear is that I can see it already. Like they're going to go straight for Merrick Garland, but then nothing's going to actually happen to Biden. Like, how do you think this is going to play out?
Well, I think it's clearly just like one more blatant example of our two-tier justice system. And it's like, how much more evidence does the American public really need before the people revolt? And maybe that sounds extreme, but I'm being serious. Like Merrick Garland should have been impeached a long ass time ago. I feel like this is just deja vu and we keep having this same conversation, except there's slightly different details each time, but the overall theme is the same. It's corruption, it's crime, and it's hypocrisy. And even if Merrick Garland is impeached, which I doubt he will be, he's just going to be a scapegoat because the real power here is the Cobb Mafia. And if you're a newer listener and you haven't heard this reference before, it's an acronym that we came up with a while ago for the Clinton, Obama, Biden Mafia that runs our country. Because really that's what's happening here. Our entire country is being controlled by the Cobb Mafia, which is under the influence of a larger global mafia called the World Economic Forum. And really, Biden's just the puppet here, and it's the killer Clintons and the Obamas who are pulling the puppet strings, but it's a package deal. And I feel like I'm a broken record here, but I'm just going to give my stock answer about what I think will happen to Biden. And that answer is nothing. Unless he happens to trip on another invisible sandbag on stage or fall down another flight of stairs or lean over too far while inappropriately sniffing a child's hair and then fall and break his neck, nothing's going to happen to him. He's just going to drift further into senility and dementia and continue to drag this country down with him because nobody in this administration is ever held accountable for anything. KJP just continues to say she's, quote, not going to comment on anything, no matter what she's asked. Kamala just acts like she's high all the time and turns everything into a word salad while laughing uncontrollably like a kid who's trying marijuana for the first time. And Biden arrogantly blows shit off and makes inappropriate comments that get shoved under the carpet. It's fucking infuriating. Like zero accountability is the theme of this entire administration.
I was going to play a clip from Mean Gene, KJP, but I didn't want to annoy you because it was so annoying. I wanted to throw my phone across the room because that's what she does. She just says she's not going to answer anything. It's like your job is to answer questions about the president. And yet, like, she won't answer anything. And then you're right about Kamala. Like, I think they're going to blame the cocaine on her. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was her because she's a little loopy. I don't know. But I mean, the thing that infuriates me is how you have the Democrats like all week trying to turn this into a get Trump campaign. So you had AOC saying that this hearing was just Trump exerting his influence. I'm like, why like why would you even bring him into this? What does he have to do with this hearing?
Why
You know?
isn't she in jail is my question.
Yeah. And I think we've joked about this before, but it's like every single time something happens to Trump, you know, they're trying to cover up something bigger going on with the Democrats. So is it any coincidence that the day this whistleblower hearing takes place, we hear that a third and likely fourth indictment of Trump is occurring? And I was like, of course, like I was just laughing today. I'm like, of course it is. Of course, because the mainstream media needs something to talk about to distract over this. And of course, that's all they want to cover. And CNN and MSNBC like didn't even cover the hearing at all. Apparently, they're just pretending that it never happened. So it's crazy. But the story gets even more interesting because on Thursday, Senator Chuck Grassley released that form FD 1023. Remember, we discussed it on a previous episode. And so like this was the form where they were going to hold FBI Director Wray in contempt because he wasn't producing the document. Well, Senator Grassley released it to the public. He's like, it's not classified. I'm releasing it. So it is out there now. Everyone can go and look at it. And this is the document that was from an FBI paid informant who is a very trusted informant, worked with the FBI for years, has been paid over $100,000 like throughout for his credible information. And the document alleges that a Ukrainian oligarch was coerced into paying Joe and Hunter Biden. And the owner of Ukrainian oil company Burisma told the informant that it cost $5 million to pay one Biden and $5 million to pay another Biden. And this money is allegedly in exchange for Joe Biden getting a Ukrainian prosecutor fired that was going after Burisma at the time. And so, you know, it's like that famous video of Joe Biden where he was bragging about how he withheld U.S. funds from Ukraine until they got the prosecutor fired. So like this is bombshell news because this is showing that like everything, you know, there is evidence like piling up that everything that, you know, has been said about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden accepting these bribes and being paid has validity. I mean, there is not only evidence, but there are whistleblowers, very respected whistleblowers from multiple agencies now. So like if nothing happens at this point, Tara, then I feel like our country has just truly fallen. I mean, I'm sorry, but like something has to come from this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I say this all the time, I guess, but I feel like we are literally on the verge of never getting our country back again. And the more information that gets exposed and the less anything gets done about it. I mean, we keep having these investigations and what comes of them? Nothing has come of any of these investigations, nothing significant. And so at the risk of sounding like a broken record yet again, unless the American people come together against this administration and get this administration out of office, we're fucked.
Yeah. Well, and like you said earlier, like when is there going to be a revolt? Like when are people going to have enough? And that's not crazy. Like look at what's happening in France. The French are revolting and now in Germany as well. And like I think it's going to continue. I think there's a lot of people that are just like finally waking up and realizing how corrupt things have gotten and that they can't continue this way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I feel like a lot came out this week. And so then it's like on the flip side, they're just going to keep indicting Trump like every time a new piece of evidence is revealed against the Bidens. But we'll keep watching and keep everyone informed on what's happening. And we'll be back here for something a little more positive, a little more hopeful on Monday with our Motivation Monday episode. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great weekend. If you're sick of all the crazy shit going on in our country and you want to express your support and patriotism for the show, head on over to our Etsy store at UO Patriot Chicks and check out our new stickers. The link can also be found on our website. If you love the show and you want exclusive episodes, support the podcast and join the conversation by becoming a member of our Patreon community. We'll be posting weekly member-only podcast episodes and content that isn't available on the weekly podcast. Every Patreon member will also get a free Unapologetically Outspoken sticker and updates about our new sticker release before they're made public. And be sure to follow us on TikTok at Unapologetically Outspoken. And if you haven't done so already, please rate and review the podcast. The more you support us, the more people we can reach. So help us spread the word.